Lebanon has declared a national day of mourning on Wednesday following blasts in Beirut that killed at least 73 and injured 3,700. The Colombian Supreme Court has ordered that former President Alvaro Uribe be placed under house arrest. The Independent Electoral Commission of Ivory Coast announced that over 900,000 new voters have been registered on the electoral roll ahead of general elections in October. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is from the south. I'm Katrina Goss. We begin in Lebanon, where two major explosions shook the capital Beirut this Tuesday, with at least 73 reported dead and 3,700 wounded, according to a health ministry source. The first blast struck the city's port shortly after 6 p.m. local time on Tuesday. Within minutes, reports emerged of another, more devastating explosion. Eyewitness footage of the blast showed the devastation wreaked in the surrounding area. Video footage captured the shockwave striking buildings kilometers away as a massive cloud of dust and debris shot into the sky. Health Ministry Director General Fadi Sanan stressed that the number of casualties was a provisional toll. Local media informed that half of the city was affected as the blast destroyed at least 7 kilometers around the epicenter. Officials are blaming highly explosive material stored in a warehouse for 6 years, while investigation is underway to discover the exact cause. And Wednesday was declared a national day of mourning in Lebanon. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Hassan Diab has stressed that those responsible for the massive blasts in Beirut would be held to account.
It will not pass without accountability. Those responsible for this catastrophe will pay the price. This is a promise to the martyrs and the injured. This is a national commitment.
And Lebanese President Michel Aoun called for an emergency cabinet meeting following the devastating blasts in Beirut. Meanwhile, Health Minister Hamad Hassan has stressed that hospitals in the capital have been overwhelmed by the numbers of casualties. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Jorge Arias extended Venezuela's condolences and solidarity to the Lebanese government following the explosions in Beirut this Tuesday. On behalf of the Venezuelan government, Arias also extended condolences to the relatives of the deceased and hoped for the prompt recovery of all those injured, while commending the emergency and rescue efforts. The International Labour Organization's Convention number 182 on the worst forms of child labour achieved universal ratification this Tuesday to become the first labour convention ratified by all ILO member states.
And as of today, every country in the world, and so every child in the world, has legal protection against these forms of extreme abuse. It doesn't mean it's going to disappear overnight, but it does mean that the international community, all of it, has now equipped itself with instruments, possibilities, traction, ways in which we can move towards where we want to get to, which is a world free of child labour.
China has accused the United States of outright bullying over the popular video app TikTok after President Donald Trump ramped up pressure for the app to be sold to a US company.
For some time now, the US, without providing any evidence, has been using an abused concept of national security, has been abusing its state power and has been unjustifiably suppressing certain non-US companies. This goes against the principles of the market economy and the WTO's principles of openness, transparency and non-discrimination. It's outright bullying. China is firmly opposed to this.
And the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson also made reference to European Union statements regarding elections in Hong Kong.
I want to stress that Hong Kong is a special administrative region of China. The election of the Legislative Council of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region is a local election in China and is purely an internal matter of Hong Kong. No foreign government, organization or individual has the right or any reason to intervene.
President of Belarus Alexander Lukashenko announced his recovery from COVID-19 this Tuesday, while urging citizens to adopt a healthy lifestyle to reduce the risks of the novel coronavirus.
The pandemic shows that people with weakened immune systems are in the risk zone. That's why everyone has to adopt a healthy lifestyle. Healthy food, fresh air and sports are essential. This is the person who went through this telling you that. If you sit at home, you will always get sick.
Spain's former king, Juan Carlos, has fled to the Dominican Republic in the midst of a mounting corruption scandal. The Spanish royal palace announced on Monday that Juan Carlos, who abdicated in 2014 over a previous scandal, was leaving the country to allow his son, King Felipe, to rule without his father's personal affairs affecting him. Spanish newspapers reported that Juan Carlos left the royal palace on Sunday before travelling to Portugal by car and flying from there to the Dominican Republic. His lawyer has claimed the former king is not seeking to escape prosecution. And Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez said his government respected the decisions of the royal household regarding the exile of former King Juan Carlos.
First of all, the government and I as president express our absolute respect for the decision taken by the royal household. We express this absolute respect insofar as what is behind the decision taken by the royal household, which is to distance itself from allegedly questionable and reprehensible behavior by a member of the royal household. Institutions aren't judged, people are. In this case, Don Juan Carlos has clearly said that he is at the disposal of justice if necessary, like any other Spaniard.
And the Spanish Ministry of Health reported over 1,000 new COVID-19 cases in the last 24 hours, adding to the more than 8,000 cases confirmed over the weekend. Spain has also reported 34 COVID-19 deaths in the last 7 days. The autonomous community of Aragon currently has the worst situation, with 237 new cases reported over 24 hours, followed by Madrid and Catalonia with 67 and 54 new cases respectively. According to Spanish health authorities, there are currently over 560 active outbreaks of the novel coronavirus across the country. I'll be right back after this short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. The Colombian Supreme Court has ordered that former President Alvaro Uribe be placed under house arrest as a preventative measure for alleged bribery and procedural fraud. The ongoing case against Uribe is one of the most important of recent years in Colombia. More than 7,000 testimonies have been analysed as part of the process. The ruling must be notified immediately and comes into effect this Tuesday. The Uribe case will be discussed again next Thursday, although the judges could call another extraordinary meeting. The former president allegedly tried to manipulate the testimony of Juan Guillermo Monsalve, who was the founder of a paramilitary group called Bloque Metro. And Colombian analyst and specialist on peace issues, Carlos Medina, has stressed that the house arrest of former Colombian President Alvaro Uribe is not linked to the many serious criminal accusations levelled against him during his presidential term.
This sentence comes mainly due to a charge of bribery of witnesses, fabrication and obstruction of justice, and for the orders against Congressman Ivan Cepeda, which are now reversed by the Supreme Court, and which placed President Uribe in the situation in which he is now. The proceedings leading to his imprisonment are not the process regarding links to drug trafficking, paramilitaries, and false positives, and all those criminal acts. Rather, this is a process on witness tampering, procedural fraud, and bribery.
And the Colombian analyst noted that the Supreme Court's decision could spark violent reactions.
I believe that it must be taken into consideration because it has produced a number of reactions in our country, which exacerbate tensions and to some extent make things difficult. Due to the convergence of three sectors at this political and legal moment that Senator Alvaro Uribe is facing, one sector that mainly reacts in a violent way against the courts and is headed to a certain extent by President Iván Duque, who does not accept this decision by the Supreme Court.
The Bolivian Workers' Centre, the country's chief trade union federation, announced on Tuesday that protests would continue against the decision to postpone the general elections, which were scheduled to be held on September 6. Demonstrators announced they will continue to block roads and highways nationwide while occupying the main streets in the cities of La Paz, Oruro and Cochabamba. A group of protesters gathered in front of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal building this Tuesday, announcing a hunger strike to demand respect for the Bolivian constitution and for the vote to take place on the previously agreed date. The Electoral Tribunal announced last week that the general elections would be held in October, marking the fourth time the vote has been postponed following the coup against former President Evo Morales last year. In Chile, the recent attacks by armed civilian groups on members of the Mapuche community have sparked condemnation. The Public Prosecutor's Office has announced it's investigating the events, but nobody has been detained for the violent acts so far.
There are almost 3,000 kilometers between the city of Arica in northern Chile and the town of Puerto Saavedra in the extreme south. However, in both places, as well as throughout the national territory, there were widespread demonstrations to protest racist acts against the Mapuche people. The images of people screaming and being lynched under the iron tolerance of the National Police Force have been seen all over the world. That's why several members of parliament are taking actions to find out who is responsible.
We are seeing groups, civilian bands that publicly call to evict and lynch our brothers.
The story started when members of the Mapuche community occupied 5 municipalities to bring the national attention to prisoners doing a hunger strike. The local authorities refused to dismantle the protest, but civilian groups organized themselves and violently attacked the peaceful demonstrators. All of this right after the Interior Minister Victor Pérez visited the area.
It's enough. How many raise the hands to go here at 12? We met at 12 in the square. You have to go with sticks, with whatever you need to defend yourself. But we have to recover the municipality today.
And that's how things happened. The National Police Force was there, but they did nothing to prevent the violent attacks, and they saw how a ceremonial Mapuche center located in Victoria Square was set on fire.
The National Police Force did not act as expected, which encouraged the violent groups that honestly are just criminal groups. They committed a hate crime, because what they said and what we saw was the idea that the one that doesn't attack is Mapuche.
After the attacks, the police detained tens of people from Curacautín, Traigen, Ercilla and Culipuli, but none of them were part of the violent groups. They were all Mapuches.
The state of Chile has not fulfilled its duty to guarantee peace, respecting human rights and condemning any expression of racism.
The criticism comes from all sectors: the College of Psychologists, Anthropologists and Journalists. The Ombudsman's office made an appeal against the Ministry of Interior and the Senate in order to call the attention of international and national organizations on this matter.
To the Chilean people, please don't ignore us. Remember that this land where you are living is not yours. This land belongs to the Mapuche people.
However, the Chilean state does not even acknowledge in the constitution the existence of this aboriginal community that has lived in these lands for centuries.
Paola Brachnik, Telesur, Chile.
On Tuesday, Costa Rica received its first commercial flight since closing its borders 5 months ago. The flight from Spain was carrying more than 200 passengers.
After 5 months, the first commercial flight has arrived with tourists to Costa Rica. It is an important milestone. This marks the beginning of a gradual recovery process for the Costa Rican tourism industry, which has a multiplying effect on all sectors of the Costa Rican economy. We all worked in the same direction to ensure that the flight arrived with all the safety and prevention conditions and protocols that are undoubtedly part of our new reality.
The United Nations has expressed concern that the damage caused during the hurricane season in Central America and the Caribbean will make children and their families more vulnerable in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. According to a report by the United Nations Children's Fund, more than 70 million children in the region are directly or indirectly affected by the health crisis following COVID-19, and the more active phase of the hurricane season threatens to aggravate the situation. Displacement, damage to infrastructure and disruption of services due to the storms, particularly in coastal areas, could make children and families more vulnerable to the disease and its impacts. Furthermore, the pandemic is also hindering the readiness of countries in the region to respond to such disasters. And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Independent Electoral Commission of Ivory Coast announced on Tuesday that over 900,000 new voters have been registered on the electoral roll, while highlighting there is no reason to postpone the general elections set for October this year.
We finally got, after due processing that consisted of actually checking whether the people on the voters list merit being there and meet the conditions. So in the end, we got 1,647,693. There are 904,956 new voters on the electoral roll, up from 277,956 new voters in 2018. As things stand, the election will not be postponed. There is no reason to postpone the election. We said that in our timeline, we had the revision of the electoral register, and the law says that electoral register must be revised and posted 3 months in advance. That is what we did. And then it takes 45 days, 2 months, to receive the nomination papers. That's what we're doing.
The novel coronavirus pandemic has caused nearly $45 million in losses to Rwanda's tourism sector. Meanwhile, an innovative alternative has been developed to offer virtual tours of Rwanda's capital, Kigali.
It's unfortunate that the pandemic hit the industry in general, but for me as a virtual tour content creator, it was actually an opportunity. So people were visiting the places, using the content I've created, and also they got to understand the importance and the advantage the virtual tours can bring to the industry as a whole.
So the virtual tourism would create need for the people because there are so many, I would say, tourism activities for which people don't know. So the best way to do it is to start virtual. You expose those packages to the potential tourists, and then after looking at them, seeing them, they will be much interested. Then the virtual tourism will be a marketing tool for the tourism.
This will never replace the traditional tourism because nothing will really replace the fact that people can be at places, at location, and see the things with their own eyes. So this is more a different layer of information which can actually push people, give them a sense of a glimpse of what they would expect if they visited the place physically.
Thousands of Indian troops imposed a curfew with razor wire and steel barricades in Kashmir on Tuesday before the first anniversary of India's abolition of the region's special status. Prime Minister Narendra Modi stripped the region of its autonomy on August 5, 2019, promising peace and prosperity after 3 decades of violence that saw tens of thousands of people killed. Officials announced a 2-day curfew on Monday, claiming that intelligence reports indicated protests were planned in the Muslim-majority region of 7 million people. Locals have called for the anniversary to be marked as a black day. Police vehicles patrolled after dark on Monday and again on Tuesday morning, with officers using megaphones to order residents to remain indoors. Meanwhile, India's health ministry announced on Monday that the country's total COVID-19 cases have surpassed 1.8 million. In the last 24 hours, authorities reported almost 53,000 new cases. Meanwhile, over 700 people with COVID-19 died over the past 24 hours, taking the death toll to 38,000. India is focusing on testing more people, with over 20 million COVID-19 tests conducted up until Sunday. The key third mainland bridge in the Nigerian city of Lagos is partially closed for renovations for a 6-month period, worsening traffic in the country's economic capital. The third mainland is Africa's second largest bridge, stretching 12 kilometers along Lagos Lagoon to link Lagos Island, the economic heart of the city, with the mainland where most people live. Its partial closure has had a serious impact on the economy, with one economist saying that productivity loss due to the traffic congestion comes to as much as $383 million US.
They are charging us because of the inconvenience of the closure of the bridge. and because of the traffic, because the drivers feel they'll be in traffic for a while, longer than the usual time they're supposed to be in traffic, or they're supposed to apply that route.
And we've come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesoenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For Teleso English, I'm Katrina Goss, and thank you for watching.